Hi, I'm Jonathan Amy, and we're here with Sheila Cornelius. She's going to be talking about Beyond the 1 minute line, and we're just so excited to have her here. Sheila, take it away.
All right. Well, hello, and thank you, Jonathan and Rochelle. It's great to be here tonight with everybody. I am talking about Beyond the 1 minute line here. So, Beyond the 1 minute line, my chart parents, Laura and Pat, taught me about the 1 minute line and up on the chart, like most of us learned. But we also talked about what was below the 1 minute line, from the 24 hours up to the 1 minute line. And we looked at the whole chart, both sides of that, 1 minute and up and 24 hours up to the 1 minute line, very closely. Pat McGreevey, my chart father, made me look closely at the bottom half of the chart with the learners that he oversaw. While he's my chart father, he played the role of the father to all of the learners in the room he was with. So not just our clients, but to the BCBAs, to everybody in the room. He was kind of our father. That's how we took him, and still do to this day. And together, we took the bottom half of the chart to look at not only the behaviors that here, so we look the bottom half of the chart that I marked with the red line there. We took not only the behaviors that we wanted to decelerate over time, but he also played a huge emphasis on the behaviors that we wanted to accelerate over time. And that was a key part to what he worked with us on. And what I remember Pat telling me was how the focus on problem behavior and only problem behavior was the focus when he got into the field. And today, I still see that as an issue in the ABA side of things, the problem behavior due to other issues outside of our control. I find that interesting, just to state out there that that issue was an issue when Pat, one of our giants in this world, that was an issue for him, and it still exists today. Just wanted to note on that, but he made it it was always an emphasis for him to accelerate behaviors on this chart. Pat was not only focused on the chart, but he was focused on continuous discussion on learning and how we can use that chart in the world ongoing, and what we can accelerate, and focusing on those desirable behaviors that we want to see in this world. And my thoughts on him leads me directly, and how he views behavior led me directly to who he learned from, his giants in this world, which goes to Og, right? And that should really be, who we all kind of look up to, and how Og was connected to Skinner, right? And Skinner, whenever I think of Skinner at Harvard, I go directly to my two really personal giants, Skinner's daughter, Julie, and Ernie, who I hold very dearly in my heart. And they both, while they both have a place, why they both hold all of Skinner's work very closely, they have a very close hold for Og's work as well, and that's the chart. And Julie has written about that. So while this chart that my charting parents and my charting giants have all taught me, it's really to look at that behavior that we want to accelerate over time, right? Even if it starts off very low, right? We want it to grow. And I also want to note on my charting giants, I went too quickly there, Joanne Robbins, Marilyn Gilbert, Kent Johnson, Jeff Martin, who I cannot leave out, who not only does charts, he'll help you with papers, and he'll not only write the charts, but he'll help you with anything that you need on that chart, before school, after school, on the weekends. I felt like my whole time at Morningside and in the summer school, he was always right there by my side when it came to that chart. There's also Libby Caswell, who's in Indiana, and she did a lot of work with me on the chart in my beginning years with it. And she also taught me how to speak, how to go out and present, and conferences and stuff. So Libby, like, much love to her. And there's Chris and Elizabeth Houghton, of course, right? So there's many giants for us all, many people that we hold closely in our heart. But all of these people that we all have in our world, they looked at this chart and they looked at the duration, and whether we looked at 1 second timings to 24-hour timings, you know, it could be 10 seconds, 8 hours, whatever we were charting for, what they all taught me was looking at positive behaviors that we want to increase over time. The focus was not on negative behaviors. It was, while sometimes negative behaviors were on the chart, the focus was more so on the positive behaviors to increase. And what that showed us was that, yes, while we're increasing these positive behaviors, we might be decreasing some negatives, but the main focus was always on the positive behaviors. Let's see. And as Richard here, our man Richard, who rocks the harmonica, right? And as he would say, some learners need tokens. And some of us use tallies, but tokens are great, and sometimes even more tangible reinforcers are excellent for our learners as they're getting used to what this standard accelerations chart is, and putting these dots on and meeting their goals to pair. But especially when the skill that they're learning on this chart, or that we're dating their performance on this chart, is their weakest skill. But I think the goal is for all of us with these learners is that over time, the dots that they get to place on the chart will become the token itself. At least that's my goal for my learners, is that eventually over time, we can replace those tokens, those tangibles, with them placing the dot on the chart themselves. But I still agree with Richard at the beginning, some learners might need that token or that tangible. And I still think he's a pretty impressive harmonica player. I don't know the specific word for that. Harmonist? Richard will let us in on that one. And then to take this a step closer, where I went with this was, over the years, I finally learned, I think with all of my giants, with my chart parents, was that it was time to put this onto my personal behavior. And it was time to look at what's going in on my life, that I need to start looking at my behavior and tracking it. And I first started tracking I don't want to say negative, but the events that were impacting my life that made me cause significant changes to my life. And that was hard, but it was good. But what it also made me do, what my giants taught me how to do, and not directly, but what I learned from them, was not only to track this, because this is valuable information, but to also look at, and this chart is a little bit, not a great picture, but look at what I can do. And look at, while all of these other events are happening, what can I do, and how can I make improvements on behaviors that I want to see increase over time? So what I think, well, it took me many years, I'll say probably over 10 years to really put this in on myself, was that it's really great to be able to do this with the learners, but then taking it in personally and putting it in on myself, that was a huge, huge impact to say, let me stop and pause and measure myself on my weaknesses. And I still do this, and it, makes me a little nervous, but I do it. It's good. And when I consider everything that my charting giants, my parents, and all the environments that I've been in, what has increased my interest in the relationship between the bottom half and the upper half of the chart of my own personal behavior, I believe it has been the love, and has been and will continue to be the most important factor that every learner, whether it's the learners we work with or ourselves as a learner, that we have to consider as each dot falls on the chart. So that's all I really have to say tonight, is really just to think of the love that we have when we're working with this chart. That's it. Thank you for listening and have a good one. Bye.
Sheila, that was terrific. I mean, thank you so much for that. That really was, it was touching on a lot of levels, and thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you.